Okay, it's Nakedly Under Construction. We're here on episode 3. Today I have another guest and not really an artist. Sometimes he dances, sometimes he walks on stilts, so he's really tall. But are you? How tall are you?
I'm not. I'm 5'6.5". All right, I'm short.
Maybe that's why you walk on stilts. Has a lot of cool different talents, and more than anything else, he has an amazing YouTube. He travels all over the world. He's been on cruise ships all over the world, and from what I hear, he's got a great story, and we want to hear, how do you go from poverty to traveling the world and reaching out to millions and thousands of people, right? So what's your name and what do you do?
So my name's Justin. A lot of people just call me Jay. At the moment, I am a YouTuber. I have one of the largest cruise ship YouTube channels in the world, and I have 2 other ones all regarding around travel. So I have like a vlog channel I kind of mess around with when I'm traveling. It depends on where I'm at. If I think it's interesting and people are going to like it. And then I have one that I just started a couple months ago called the Travel News Channel. So basically, I do a lot of news on cruise ships on my main channel, the Shiplife. But anything that's happened, especially right now, a lot of plane crashes, stuff like that, I just kind of give people updates and then I'll give my opinion on it, stuff like that.
What's your opinion on it?
It's kind of like there's 2 situations that I think about, right? One, because you got to ask yourself, like usually I stay on a cruise ship, right? I'll do news and there'll be people that go overboard, stuff like that. You ask yourself, is it that more of these events are happening? Or is it just that people are documenting it more? And with the age of social media, because we're in the digital world now,
Very good point.
More people are talking about it. And it's just kind of being shown, and the content and the information is a little bit more readily available.
For sure. For sure. That makes sense. So how did you get into what you do? First of all, what do you do the most right now? Dancing, stilt walking,
No, YouTube.
YouTubing?
YouTube.
Okay. So what did you do first?
Dancing.
Dancing,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, it was super weird how it happened. I never expected to make a career out of it. Actually, out of high school, I had my son my senior year of high school when I was 17.
Okay.
And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I love my son, but that was the most stressful time in my life at the time. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I come from a nursing family, so I said, okay, nursing school or the military or a firefighter, one of those.
Something that you would see in a book. What do you want to be when you grow up?
So a buddy of mine that was working at Busch Gardens as a dancer offered me a job. He's like, yeah, it's going to be like 18 an hour. So, okay, do I go pursue my dreams? I'm a breakdancer and acrobat. Yeah, okay. Street acrobat, flip over people, stuff like that. But he offered me a job there, and I was like, okay, do I go to the military or nursing school, or do I go try to see if this works? So I took the job at Busch Gardens, and a lot of ups and downs. Life of an entertainer is very, it's like a roller coaster. It's never consistent. So you're living gig to gig. Sometimes money's good. Sometimes money, most of the time, is bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went from there, and then got a job with the Harlem Globetrotters. A buddy of mine told me that they were still around. I had no idea.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I know the producer. They need breakdancers. So I sent in my resume, and then they call me, send me up to New York, and we do like a little bit of an audition. And I got myself the job, and I had my friend Simon that got me the job at Busch Gardens. I got him the job too. So working for them for about 2 years at a time.
So for people that don't know what that is, what do they do?
So basically, it's like a show. Like they do like trick shots. They dunk the ball. It's literally just like a basketball set with all the boring stuff taken out of it. I mean, you ask any of your grandparents or your parents, they probably yeah. I mean, it's all a show. Like it's a basketball game, right? But it's kind of like I don't know. Think of like basketball meets WWE.
Okay.
I think that's the best way that I can put it.
That's interesting.
They've been around, I think, what now, 95 years, something like that. They've been around for a long time.
Oh my goodness. And how long? You said 2 years or?
No, so I was working for them at 2 years before I got promoted. Okay. And so a guy had a family emergency, left. He was a stage manager. They asked me if I wanted to do it. I'm like, I kind of just want to do backflips and spit on my head. Let's say I'll give it a try.
Just want to do my thing.
So yeah, we were heading up to Canada. So I tried it, and I was like, okay, I liked it. I had to do all the meet and greets with the parents and celebrities and stuff. So did that for a couple years, and they promoted me to international tour manager.
So you're a really shy person is what I'm getting.
No, not at all. Not at all. I like people. My problem is I don't know when to shut up.
Oh boy, well we want you to talk. We want to hear all about you.
But yeah, they promoted me to international. They offered me a job for international tour manager. And oh yeah, we got a European tour. I said, well, I've never been to Europe, so off I go.
Did you always want to travel?
I did, yeah. I mean, even when I was a kid, I always wanted to see the world. My family didn't have a lot of money. We grew up in a trailer in Sefner, Florida. And I just always wanted more. Like originally, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I love killer whales. Orcas, my favorite animal. I know everything about them. And this is between.
But you didn't. So okay, no. Rewind.
Here.
All right. So first, he was a dancer in high school. When did you start dancing? Was that like in the bathroom, in the mirror, to see how? No, how'd you learn how to dance in the first place for you to be going out of high school and getting a job from doing that?
This was middle school. Originally, again, I wanted to be a marine biologist, right? And my parents always told me that college costs a lot of money. You know, we were at Clearwater Beach. I think I was like 13 at the time, 12 or 13. And we saw some breakdancers over there. Right, they're all good friends of mine now, actually. But there were some breakdancers there, and I saw that they were making money, you know, doing street performing. It's called busking or hitting, what we call it, right? Okay. And I said, oh, wow, they're making money. Maybe I can learn how to do that, and then I can afford college whenever I become 18. And I started dancing. Had nowhere to practice. I was practicing some hot, you know, the tennis, the outside tennis courts?
Yes.
Yeah, my hands are.
And I was going to say, like, you can't.
Yeah, so I was there, and then I would go flip on like some tall grass, and that's how I trained. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of started.
You ever broke anything or hurt yourself?
No, never. We didn't, you know, it's kind of funny being a breakdancer, but no, thankfully, you know, fingers crossed, I never break anything, but I haven't, no.
Someone knock on wood.
Yeah, right. Any good one here?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you said that so how did you progress? You just kept breakdancing all the way up to high school? Did you do anything? Did you ever do shows or do competitions or anything up until then?
So after I started dancing, I saw the breakdancers there, but I didn't think there were any like breakdancers around, right? So
I'm one of
at the time, my ego was like, oh, I can do a couple like spin moves. I'm the best breakdancer in Florida, you know? And
at the parties.
I come to find out that we have one of the strongest scenes in the world, right? Some of the best that have ever done it. Tampa, Orlando, Miami, but yes, Tampa. Like some of the most well-known scenes that have ever existed come from Tampa. So we go to this competition back when I was like 14, and me and my friends, we were over, I had some guys over in Plant City, right? And we didn't know. Like, okay, we're gonna go. We saw a 5-on-5 breakdance competition for $1,000. We're like, guys, we're gonna go easy money, right? We get there, and like all the dancers that I had seen on YouTube and all over the world, they were at this competition, and I'm like, oh, yeah. So we got destroyed. We got beat by this guy, Bebe from Miami. He's one of the best breakdancers in the world at the time, and he won a event called. So there's a one-on-one called Red Bull BC1 that they have every year. It's the biggest one-on-one competition in the world. So
how old were you?
14.
Stop.
We got destroyed by him and his crew from Miami. I did like I was so nervous. I did like, it's called a gainer, so it's like a running backflip. Yeah. And for me, I had him on lock, right? I used to hit that every time.
Guys, I'm going to try and get him to do some moves for us in a minute.
Maybe. So I go for the gainer, and I just put so much energy into it. I jumped really high, over-rotated, land on my back, right? And that was like my entrance into like the break-in scene in Tampa. But that's how, coincidentally, that's how I met my friend Simon, that would inevitably end up giving me the job over at Busch Gardens. Because they saw that we were representing Brandon, Florida. He's like, oh, I'm from Brandon. And then he's like, oh, come practice with us sometimes.
So I guess it's almost more important to network, and like who you know matters more than education?
Always. I mean, look, your network is your net worth, right? You can use whatever statement or analogy that you want. That's just the reality, right? There are people out there that have all the skill and talent in the world, but if you don't know the right people, or if you don't have the communication skills to meet those people to get you in a higher place, it will literally never happen.
Absolutely. Were you always social? Or I know some dancers that like have to dance to get themselves out, I mean, and then there's
that's what I've noticed. A lot of dancers, for example, are they're not social people at all. They're very introverted people, right? I mean, I've never really been that way. Yeah, I mean, it depends. When I was younger, I was quiet a lot of the time because I always had like an imaginary mind, you know? Like I used to get in trouble from school because it was like, oh yeah, he's just daydreaming, looking up in the skies all the time.
Obviously it paid off.
So eventually. But whenever it was a situation where it's like, if I wasn't comfortable with people, then even now, right? I'm a talkative person, but I feel out the vibes, right? I guess I'm a little bit of an empath. If I'm not making connection with somebody, then
so you read the room.
Yeah. And it usually tends to work out. Like I can meet somebody, I'm like, yeah, we're probably not going to get along too well. Yeah. I can just kind of feel it out.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. You can come in there and be like, is this a place where I can make an impact or not?
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So going back, you did mention that you came from poverty and like what that was like and where you live. Could you talk a little bit about, because we just heard like all these amazing things that you do, and it's so crazy that you said that you came from nothing.
Yeah, I mean, my parents did what they could, you know, but like originally my family from the south side of Chicago, then we moved to Birmingham, Alabama at the time. So coincidentally enough, so back then, you ever seen Forrest Gump?
Yes, of course.
So I was extremely bow-legged when I was a kid, and I had to wear leg braces. I actually still have them.
Is that why you stood stilts? And I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Well, for my parents, my family jokes about it all the time, right? Like they told
you're used to something like that on your legs already.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so they told my parents at the time. They said, look, if he doesn't get some kind of assistance by the time he's an adult, there's the potential that he might have to have like a cane or a walker, because I was extremely bow-legged, right? So then they fixed
And now
that.
he's a dancer.
Yeah, it's
I
so
hope
funny.
y'all heard that.
So yeah, I mean, after that, we moved to Atlanta, Georgia for a couple years, and then eventually to Tampa, like Sefner area, so just outside of Brandon. And at the time, my parents, we could only get like a small trailer, and it was myself, my mom, my dad, my 5 brothers and sisters, so all of us living
Wait,
in
how
like
many siblings?
so there are 5 of us total.
Are you youngest, oldest? Where do you fit?
Well, I'm technically the youngest. I have a twin brother, and I'm a minute older, so I count that. So he's the youngest. I'm the second
That's
youngest.
so funny. Dude, what does he do? Is he a dancer? Does he do
No, he likes to
artistic or
cook.
anything like that?
No, he likes to cook. That's
Yeah.
really it. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. So how did you come out of that? Is there anything else that you had to face to be able to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, even
I think it's so hard for people that are, in general,
Yeah.
anybody coming from poverty, but let alone people that are ethnic.
it's oh yeah, no, I agree. I mean, because there's always the perception. That's the hard part, right?
You
When
know?
and it's like for me, I don't run around like I'm some victim, but I have to understand the reality, right? When people are following me in stores or people give me a look, like even now when I travel all over the world, right? But it's like people still go to the other side of the street when they see
Are
me.
people different in other countries when it comes to
Yeah.
that stuff? What
Yeah.
is that like?
It's most places it's better.
Yeah, I would
honest,
think
right?
so.
It's like-
I think America would be worse.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the worst. There's always someplace worse, sure. But here, people are very, very judgmental. I mean, people can say all day, we don't judge, right? But we're human. It's human nature to judge, right? At a glance, that's just kind of how it works. But for me, I'm just kind of like, well, you know what? I'm here in the States. There's already going to be a presumption that I'm poor or I'm a bad guy or a criminal. Or
right.
I don't, and again, just to be clear, I don't run around like that, like a victim,
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, somebody thinks this. But I have to understand the reality and
Yeah,
the
of course,
perception of being a black guy running around,
Yeah.
especially with what I do now.
What is your mentality?
I'm just a go with the flow kind of person,
Yeah.
right? Like if I pick up the vibes that somebody's kind of already profiling me for whatever, I just don't associate with it, you know?
Okay, cool. So we went from dancing, and then I mentioned, he did stilt walking. How many people do you know that do that? Was that like because you didn't like you were short, or like what happened with that?
No, not. I mean, that doesn't bother me. I mean, look, we all come in shapes, different shapes and sizes. I don't really care. Like I'm not like super short.
Yeah.
I always say I'm star height or celebrity
What
height.
made
Right?
you want to be stilt? Well,
I was
Kevin
just-
Hart's amazing.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. You know, well, so at the time I was working at Busch Gardens, and it was just kind of like you learn a little bit of everything, right? A lot of people they'll go learn how to sing or something like that, and it's like you got to be a little bit more versatile if you're going to try to do entertainment full time. So there was these actually.
Interesting. So they were telling you had to learn more skills and more talent.
Yeah, they were suggesting it. They're like, well, you're here. You can learn all this stuff for free while you're here. They offer free classes. You might as well jump on it. So I did. So you have like the regular stilts. A lot of people, they call them drywalls. And
Actually,
technically,
I know because I was looking it up right before it out.
well, there's different types, right? There's Bigfoot stilts that are, let's say, you'll see like a Cirque du Soleil, a little bit more
Yeah.
professional entertainment environments. But for the most part, if you go to a theme park or in most places, they use what's called drywall stilts. And those are technically designed for painting.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
I was gonna try and buy
Yeah.
you.
So if somebody's like painting, usually they use it to get up, right? And then there's something called like jumping stilts that I'll use, right? So I only be able to see them. They're kind of curved, so
Yeah,
I know how to
yeah.
use those too. Like you can do like
That's
backflips and
dope.
stuff on them, and yeah. So I learned how to do that. Started doing shows at Busch Gardens, and then I bought myself a pair, and then yeah.
That's dope. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we went from dancing to, and you did a lot with dancing. Do you dance at all still? What
Yeah.
kind of dancing do you do now?
Just breaking. That's it. BreakDance.
So you do YouTube, and you say you travel all over the world and you've been on cruise ships. Do you dance on the cruise ships and when you go places or?
To have fun, yeah. I mean, I don't really do a lot of contracts anymore. Like when I started my YouTube channel, I was actually working for a Norwegian cruise line, doing an African American Broadway show called After Midnight.
That's awesome.
Which I mean, I've never had I have a lot of friends that work on ships, and they've never had a contract like mine. I was working not even 2 days a week, and I was a specialty actor.
Fingers on the cruise ship.
Yeah, it was a tap dance show, right? So I'm not a tap dancer. So I was the guy that come in, do a backflip, leave, come, do a little number, and then I'd leave, and then that was it, right? And I had every island off, every port off, so I had a lot of time on my hands.
That is
And
amazing.
you know, when you're going to Cozumel, Mexico 3 times a week, eventually you're just kind of like, I need to do something else because there's not much to do when you're working on ships for 9 months.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, oh, okay, I was just bored. It's like, maybe I'll start a podcast about travel. The Wi-Fi is horrible, and I was like, okay, I don't have the setup for it. I'll just start a YouTube channel and talk about what it's like living and working on cruise ships. And then my first video, I just sat down, took my iPhone 6 at the time, put it on some books, and I just put the video up. And I didn't know about anything when it came to YouTube at the time, like titles and thumbnails and hashtags. I had no idea how any of that worked. That's my first day working on a cruise ship.
How does it work?
Oh, I mean, some things help, some things don't. But it's like if there's an algorithm, right? There's 2 things you got to appease on YouTube or just any social media. There's the people, right? and then what we call the almighty algorithm, right? You have to be able to put
we all
in.
love that.
It's a love-hate relationship. But you'll have a situation where if you put a title the right way, it obviously is going to intrigue the audience, and it's also going to intrigue the algorithm, because the algorithm is constantly trying to figure out where to promote your videos. So again, I didn't know anything about that, and I put the video up, and I just kind of let it sit there for like 24 hours. I was scared to look, right? And I come back, and the video had like it's just under 50,000 people had seen it, and I'm like, oh, is that a lot?
Oh, does this matter?
Yeah,
Did I make an
yeah.
impact?
So I kept going, kept making videos like once or twice a week. It kept going, and then at the time, I had no idea you could make money on YouTube. I didn't know how it worked, right? I thought you had to have like millions of followers to make even $100, right? I finished my contract, and prior to that, and then I was doing Uber, right? Because again, the life of entertainer is very.
Right.
I did Uber for like 6 years, right? So I got back and I said, okay, well, I don't want to blow all the money that I just made. Let me just go. I went and bought a 2015 Kia Optima, and then I go driving again, right? I was like, okay, well, back to Uber until the next contract or next gig or whatever. First guy I pick up was on Bayshore, right? I can't even remember the guy's name, because to me, it went through one ear and out the other. But come to find out, this guy's like a YouTuber, right? I picked him up this nice house. Well, you know Bayshore, right? $1 million homes. And he just got the house. Come to find out, he had just bought the house, right? Start talking. He's like, oh, dude, like, you seem pretty like talkative. He's like, you don't just do like Uber, right? I'm like, no, I said I worked for a Norwegian cruise line, and I'm a dancer, and I don't know why I threw it out there, but I did. I said, okay, well, I kind of got this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I heard you make money doing it. He's like, yeah, I mean, I'm a YouTuber. He's like, technically Google paid for this house, and I'm like, no way, right? I look at his channel, like 12 million followers, right?
Oh my God.
And I guess he was playing video games or something like that. I think Fortnite at the time.
That makes sense.
And he goes, yeah, let me see your channel. I think I had like 7,000 people at the time.
Yeah,
I'm like, no. But I show him anyway.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I don't mean to get into your business, but are you monetized? I don't see it. You don't have any merch. You don't have any sponsors, anything. Are you making any money? I'm like, I didn't know you could. It's like, yeah, you're already eligible for monetization, because the threshold for YouTube is 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time within a year. I go back and check, and I hit that marker my first 2 weeks on YouTube, right?
Wow.
So he showed me how to do it. I applied for it. It took like 2 weeks. I got monetized, and then my first check from YouTube was like $350, something like that, 350 something.
That's so
yeah,
great
more or less,
start.
give or take. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is cool little side money. So kept going.
I mean, it's not like you were already doing those things.
Yeah, well, so I had some points where I was making maybe like $700 a month, and I was like, okay, cool. And then the pandemic came, and then I wasn't working on ships anymore, so it was just very it was fluctuating.
What did you do during that time?
Uber.
Yeah, Uber.
I was doing Uber, some car detailing here and there, just kind of trying to get by.
Don't you love that when society shuts down, how the artistry gets kicked in the butt?
Yeah, it was horrible times. No, so then I was getting ready to quit YouTube. It's like, okay, it's too much work. I'm literally driving all day, every day, and then coming back and making videos. And then at that time, I was just having conversations with some of my friends. We fast forward to 2020, right? And my friends are telling me like, yeah, this COVID thing's getting pretty bad. I think they're sending us home. And I'm like, who? They say everybody. I said, no. Given this is one of my friends at the time. She's over in a brand new cruise ship, Celebrity Apex, over in France. And she's like, yeah, I heard they're sending everybody home. I'm like, oh, it's weird. It's never been done before. I didn't think it's gonna get that bad. Now, given this is here in the U.S., like February, even up until February 2020, nobody really knew what was going on. It was starting to come over, but nobody, right? I talked to my friends over at Royal Caribbean. They were over in Miami. And like, yeah, I've heard rumors that they're going to send everybody home. And I'm like, talked to my friend from Carnival. They had a ship over in Tampa. Like, yeah, I've noticed it's been confirmed, but people are talking about it. So then I switched over to what would then be like cruise news, right? I started doing this. And I just talked about it. This is March 6th, I made this video, 2020. And it was like a 15-minute video explaining to people how it works when you work on a cruise ship. Basically, I explained the outline, like, okay, whenever we get a contract, it usually takes about 60 to 90 days for us to get on the ship, because we have to go get drug tests, we have to get eye tests, exams, physicals, trainings, all this stuff. So it takes a while to get onboarded to a cruise ship, to sign on, right? And to sign off, it can be a little bit of a process too, right?
Wow.
And I explained that whole process. I said, look, well, they're talking about sending everybody home. That has never been done before. So you're talking about 100,000 crew members to 100 different countries.
Just down the world.
During, we got the stops everywhere as far as travel, right? Travel restrictions everywhere. And I said, well, if they do this, it'll probably take 6 months to a year before
to get everything in.
Everything gets back to normal, right? So video goes viral. It's like 500,000 people had seen it within a couple days. And every comment, for the most part, was like, oh, you're just trying to scare people. You're just trying to make money. The cruise line should sue you, blah, 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 right? Sure enough, lo and behold, about a week later, March 14th, the entire global cruise ship industry shut down. At the time, they said it was a month, 30 days. But everybody saw the writing on the wall. It was enough to validate what I was saying. So people started flowing into the channel, right? So then after that, like, you get paid once per month on YouTube. It's always on the 21st unless it falls on like a bank holiday or like the weekend, right? But that next till my last check when I was getting ready to quit, it was $211.46. I'll never forget it, right? That check after that, when I made those videos, I kept going after that, right? I got a check for just over $3,000. I said, oh, well, this is how much I make doing Uber all day long.
Right.
That's how I looked at it.
Just from a video.
Yeah. I said, okay, cool, right? I said, let me try it again. I said, the guy that I talked to in the Uber might have been right. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, because at the time, back then, he said, you could easily be pulling like 10 grand a month with your channel within like a year. And I'm like, yeah, right. So I kept pushing, doing news. And then that following month, I got a check. I think it was like $2,800 at the time. But for me, that was still enough to validate everything, right? I said, okay, I'm going to stop everything that I'm doing right now. No more Uber, no nothing. I'm just going to dive into this, right? A couple months later, I did, what, $6,000 in 2020. And then I believe it was September or October, I got a check for $7,800. And I'm like, wow, I had never seen that kind of money in my life. Like in a month's time. I said,
yeah.
Oh, wow.
How many videos do you think that was?
I was doing videos every day.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay.
Every day without fail. I barely slept. I was just like, as soon as I finished video, I'm like doing research, finding scripts and stuff, just writing stuff out. Not scripts, but just writing out notes. And
like
then
what kind of notes?
Well, so I don't do scripts when I do my videos, right? But if like there's something going on, let's say a cruise ship has COVID on it, or they're talking about restarting the industry, right? I will look at like at least like 3 different articles on the same topic, or try to find like 3 different articles, and I just take notes. And I would just
kind of
take the
educating
facts,
yourself to be able to talk about it.
I would take those facts that are going on, and then I would just kind of put it in my own words and just kind of not really regurgitate it, but just kind of summarize it and still try to make it like informative, but also entertaining as well.
Yes.
So
well, you had that background, so.
Yeah. So I mean, it worked out. So yeah, it got to a point where it's like I was averaging like $7,000-8,000 a month in 2020 toward the end, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you do now?
No.
What do you do now?
Well, no, it got much higher. Come on, as far as the money.
No, like what? Like yeah, like what do you? That's what you're still doing is the YouTube channel.
Yeah. No,
like
it blew up after that. So then when cruising came back, like. This is the hardest part, right? Because most of that money that I was making, as soon as it came back, right, I was fixing the mistakes of like my early 20s and stuff, right? And when cruising came back, I spent most of that money traveling, right? I was like, okay, well, it's a business. You got to kind of put in the money. So I would spend I would pay for all my cruises, right? I said, okay, cruising's coming back. Let me get on the first one.
Yeah.
So then I tried it. It did well. And then I just started taking like 20 cruises a year.
Wow.
All right. So, okay, well, you know what? This whole situation's kind of messed up. I don't know what's going to happen with taxes or whatever, but I just, for me, I was just like, look, we're just going to figure it out, you know? So, kept doing that. And then fast forward to 2022, it finally passed $10,000. It blew past that, hit 12, and then it went to 15, and then it went to $20,000 a month. And I'm like, this feels illegal. So yeah, I mean, you get to a point now where it fluctuates, right? Because like it depends. Like what I try to explain to people when it comes to YouTube is that it's not manual labor, but it's a mental game, right? Like I have all these other factors that I'm dealing with in like my regular life, but then I gotta get on the video and be able to enunciate well and get my point out there and give people information. And meanwhile, it's like, oh, I got this stressful situation going on over here.
Your actual life.
It can be difficult. That's the hard part. And again, and I'm not trying to be like a victim or whatever, but for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I got this going on here, but I also got to sit down here and make videos and you know, so that's probably the hardest part about it.
Where is your son? Where is your son?
He's here.
Where was he during that time?
Well, so he lives with his mom.
In Tampa?
Yeah, in Tampa. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I was with him yesterday. We went go-karting yesterday.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, given for me, like I don't.
Have you ever taken him?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
How old is he?
Not yet. 14.
Okay.
He wants to go.
Does he dance? That was the age you were dancing.
No, he doesn't dance. No, he doesn't like it. For him,
oh, man.
he knows that I've been traveling since he was like born, right?
Yeah.
But he also, I feel, he'll never tell me, right? But I feel like he understands and accepts that I travel a lot, right? Because I do, right? But I feel like deep down he's kind of like, well, this is the thing that took my dad away. Aww. You know, I feel bad, but I'm like, look, unfortunately in this world, we don't get to, beggars can't be choosers, right? I would love to be with my son every single day. But unfortunately, not everybody gets that, right? Like, I look at it from this perspective because when I got the job for the Harlem Globetrotters, right? Everybody was like, oh, you're just going to leave your son, you're this, you're that,
you know? You were in New York for that, right?
Yeah, that's what we had training camp, right? And then we do like a tour, right, around the U.S., Canada. Right. But, you know, when I got there my first year, that's when it clicked for me. I was like, okay, I'm like, damn, am I a deadbeat dad or am I a bad person, right, for doing this? But then I got there and I was the only person there with one kid. And some of these guys have been working for this company for 15, 20 years, leaving on Christmas Day every year, right? They open presents and they go, and then they're gone for about 4 months, right? And then I started working on the cruise ship, and then it was the same, right? You got people who had, women who had just given birth a couple months ago, and here they are on a 9-month contract working on the cruise ship. Are they bad parents? No.
This is what it is.
You know, like I explain that a lot to people. Like, yeah, but you know, you're traveling all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but like, even if you look at somebody that's let's say domestically here in the country, right? Do you think that the people, let's say the athletes that are in the NFL and the NBA, and they're traveling to this game, to this game, this game, do you think they're with their children every day?
Right.
No. Does that make them bad parents?
Right.
No. You realize quickly, like,
truckers.
Yes, exactly. The list goes on and on. There's no way to be a perfect parent, right?
Yeah.
And you realize too, let's say if you experience the passing of like a loved one, right? No matter how much time you spent with somebody, you're going to sit there and you're going to say, man, I wish I had spent more time with them, because there's no perfect amount of time, right? That's why you got to make the time count.
The most valuable thing in the world.
Yeah, you make the time count as opposed to you feeling like you got to be there suffocating them every day. Because there are people that will do that. And naturally, when you are around your children every day, or your significant other every day, or your parents or whoever every day, you start to take them for granted.
Yep. You get used to them.
Yeah, it happens. So.
No, absolutely. So we hear how you've done so many amazing things and had so many amazing experiences. Do you have some favorites?
In travel?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where
of course.
should we go? What cruises should we be on?
My favorite cruise, Antarctica, hands down.
Yeah.
It was a dream come true for me. We went over out of Argentina.
Yeah.
Out of Ushuaia. It was a 9-day cruise. It's so beautiful. We're seeing whales every day, and for me, that was my favorite animal. So we got out there. I felt like I was on another planet when I was out there. That was my best. Alaska, I try to do every year with a different company.
So you like the cold and you're from Florida?
I hate the cold. I hate the cold. I look at it this way, right? I hate the cold. I don't mind visiting.
I hate it.
But I look at it this way, right? If it's snowing or we're in some place like exotic or crazy like Antarctica or in Alaska, we're doing whale watching, right?
That's worth it.
It's cold for a reason.
Yeah.
I'll tolerate it.
Yeah.
Would I live there? No. You could offer me $10 million and I wouldn't do it. It depends on the time of year.
Yeah.
Like when I was in, when I worked for the Globetrotters, we were there.
It was light all the time or something like that, right?
Like it get to a point where it's like daytime and literally the sun's out and it's bright at midnight.
Yeah.
It just depends on the time of year. And then sometime during the year, it'll be daytime for like 3 days. Yeah. It'll throw off your sleep schedule. It really will. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
It's cool to see, but like after you get used to it, you're kind of like, because I mean, our bodies are designed that way, right? Nighttime, you're gonna get tired.
Yeah.
Daytime, it's like and we need the sun, right, to digest our food and all this other stuff, right? So it throws you off.
That's really cool. So we hear all these amazing things that you've done and like kind of like the progress that you've taken to get there. Are there any sacrifices that you've had to make besides your being with your son, or anything that you had to go through that helped you get to this place?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations, and as stereotypical as it sounds, is that you lose a lot of people, right? When I started getting into YouTube, and like my friends make fun of me for being an Uber driver, right? And then when I started YouTube, and they're like, "Oh yeah, aren't you a little too old to be doing that?" Because like it's like when Facebook first started, right? Facebook originally was designed for college, right? So if you were like an adult doing Facebook like years ago, right? People are like, oh, what the heck? You're a grown man. Why are you on?
That's what all the older people
And that's what happened with YouTube too, right? When people thought of like YouTube, or at least prior to maybe like 2016, 2018, right? It was like a kid that got lucky that's like a millionaire. Like there's one called Ryan's Toy Review. This kid just opens toys and stuff. Like he's a little bit older now, but people will think like a kid making videos on YouTube, right? But for me, I saw the potential. Like I think at the time I was maybe what, 26, 27. And my friends are making fun of me, like, "Oh, you really think that YouTube thing's gonna work out?" You know, so I lost a lot of people on the way. As they say, it's lonely at the top, and you realize that because it's difficult, right? And now when you do social media too, people form again the parasocial relationship with you, and they think they know you, but you also have people that are waiting for your downfall, right? Every video that I put out is like a product, sure, and I want people to basically buy, which I mean watch it, right? But then you got people literally just kind of waiting for a sentence that they don't like, or waiting for you to say the wrong thing or make a mistake, and then they'll literally just attack you for it in the comments.
Why do you think that is?
Because most people are miserable.
Yeah?
Most people are. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but it's true. Most people are, maybe miserable is the wrong word. Most people are unfulfilled in their life.
So I'm going to get a little deep. We're on Naked Beginner Construction, where we like to get underneath what makes the person. So what is the meaning of happiness? I mean, why is it so hard to achieve?
Because people, they chase it, right? You don't want happiness because happiness is it's fleeting. You can never be permanently happy. I think that's the biggest problem for people, right? If I gave you $1 million right now, you'd probably be happy in that moment, right? But the minute you have it and you've bought all the things you wanted and went everywhere you wanted to go, eventually it's not going to matter anymore.
So is the key fulfillment then?
Yes. You want to be fulfilled. You don't want to be happy.
What's the difference and how do you get there?
So happiness is a temporary emotion. It's an emotional state, right? Fulfillment means, okay, I've achieved my goals. I can make more goals. And you are essentially constantly trying to accomplish things, right? When you're fulfilled, it means that, yeah, you've accomplished your goals, but you're not in that emotional moment of happiness. It means you can get past that. You can say, all right, well, I'm happy right now, but after the happiness and that excited moment goes away, I can still say, yeah, I did it. I made this happen.
So what does your ideal life look like?
Traveling, being able to give other people like the gift of travel. To me, I think travel is the greatest teacher.
Yeah.
I think it's better.
So you're doing what your ideal looks like.
Yeah, not completely, right? Because I mean, I still got problems like everybody else, right? I would love to have like healthy relationships around me, which again is still in that building point because you get to a point where you lose everybody, and then eventually you find like your circle, your tribe. And I'm kind of in that midpoint, right? I have a lot of connections and people all over the world, which I'm thankful for, but I don't have like a foundation.
Isn't that interesting that you can know tons and tons of people, but there are a core that you
Yeah.
need,
I mean,
right?
that's the hard part, right? Because like, I mean, I'm traveling all over the place, right? And it's like when I finally get back and I see my friends, like there's a bar we go to, Crowbar, right? And I'll see everybody, but it's kind of like,
hey, shout out to Tom.
Hey, shout out. But, you know, it's one of those things where I get back and it's like, yeah, they want to know about my adventures and stuff. And it's like, it's hard to even have that conversation because either I'm telling them like, oh yeah, where were you at? Oh yeah, I just got back from Ibiza, you know, oh cool. But to a degree, I understand inherently. I'm like, okay, either it sounds like I'm bragging, which sucks because I'm not, right? It's just kind of like my life and people are literally asking me about it, right?
I have a job just like that.
So either I sound like I'm bragging or I know that they won't understand because they weren't there. Right? Like people will come up, oh my God, you're living the life. And I'm like, yeah. It's not that I'm ungrateful. I'm very fortunate and very grateful. But there's so much that goes into it and the ups and downs and the loneliness. Like when I'm traveling, yeah, I meet people, especially now with my YouTube channel, right? It's one of the largest in the world on cruise ships. And it's one of those situations where like people come and they'll give praise and respect and all that stuff. And we'll have good conversations. And I'll meet some people that are like, let's say the temporary friend for that week that I'm with them, right? But it's not like my foundation. I don't have it.
Yeah. So what is your mission statement? Who are you? No, I'm asking you, not everybody else. Who are you?
How do I even answer that? Let me see. I would say that I am.
I knew we were going to get to it. I always stump them at least once.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say that I'm just an ambitious person. I want to get the full experience in life. And I think so far it's kind of been that way. A lot of ups and downs, definitely a lot of ups and downs, but for me, as far as who I am, I just want to be able to get the most out of life because I know everything is temporary. No matter how you
really want to live in the moment.
Yeah, no matter how much you enjoy something, right? Like I plan for the future, but you can only do so much. Right. I just try to live in the moment. I try to enjoy. I try to just make sure I'm fulfilled at all times, and prepare for the bad times because they're always guaranteed to come. Always.
So I think when we had met, I asked you a couple things to see if you would be a good person to interview and to get a little bit of your backstory. And you mentioned that you were homeless. Do you feel like you're homeless now with not having a house and you're traveling all around the world? And we would like to hear about that experience where you go from that kind of homeless to whatever you were talking about to this.
Yeah. Okay. So there's like homeless, right? Like at one point I was living in my car, actually on a couple different occasions for like months on end. Even when I was an Uber driver, I didn't have the money to like go find this place. Credit's bad, you know, all this stuff. So I didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was points where I lived in my car, and then there's the other side of it where I consider myself like I go by like J the Nomad, right? Like I'm just a nomad. Where it's like, yeah.
Remember that, J the Nomad. Is that your social media handle?
Yeah.
Check it out.
So you'll get to a point where it's like, yeah, I'll rent like an Airbnb for a month, or I'll go stay in Mexico for like a couple weeks. It just depends really on what's going on and what I have coming up. So I'm like, yeah, like now I'm at a point where I'm kind of like, all right, it's not that it's getting like boring, but as you get older, you start wanting to have like a home. So that's kind of like what I'm aiming for now. Yeah.
Would you still travel?
Yeah,
even
of
with
course.
a home base?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but just being gone, because like eventually you get to a point where you feel like you're kind of running away from something, right? You're always gone, right? Like if I'm home and there's this problem going on, this problem, like, oh, what am I gonna do? then I'm gonna go to Mexico, go do some scuba diving, and I think after that I'm gonna go over to Europe for a little while, and eventually, like you know, you can't run from reality. It's kind of like eventually you got to come home and just kind of deal with whatever problems are at
You don't
home.
have to run. You can fly and swim and ride a boat.
Yeah, but you know, like sometimes you got to go face
Like,
the challenges head on, because I mean adversity, it's kind of baked in the cake. It's gonna come no matter what, and you got to eventually just say, you know what, I'm ready, let's do this.
yeah. So what does a bad moment look like to you or for you?
I mean, like, I handle stress well most of the time, right? But just like stressful situations when I know that, like, because I live in such like a weird dynamic, right? Where I'm living like, in a way, let's say the dream life, right? I get to vacation for a living, I get to travel, right? And then reality sets in. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I forgot my credit's bad and I can't get this apartment that I want, or you know, I don't know, my son's getting older and he's going up and down. He's had his first breakup, you know. It's those little things, or just even like with family or relationships, those problems still come.
Yeah.
Just because you're living like the dream life, or quote unquote, right? You still got to deal with all of that stuff, and it can be draining. It can be.
What is the highlight of your days most of the time?
I mean, now spending time with family,
Yeah.
or traveling to someplace new.
So
I love it.
relationships. I just want to
Yeah.
put the emphasis on how important relationships is.
Very,
Like it
very,
is.
very,
No
very,
matter-
very
No
important.
matter how much money you have, no matter if you're following your dream, at the end of the day, it sounds like relationships and networking is the key.
Yeah. I mean, again, as you get older too, especially like you start to cherish those relationships, especially like now with social media too. There's so many things are fabricated now, right? So it's like when you find genuine people, it can be difficult to like find those type of people again if there's ever an issue. Which again, it kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
You're trying to better yourself. You're trying to build, so you can get caught up in that while also unintentionally neglecting like a relationship and just
Right.
like that. Because I've gone through that many a times. I'm going through that right now, and it's kind of like, what do you do?
What does the devil is in the details mean?
For me, I would just say that like you got to look at every aspect of potentially a bad situation, right? Or even a good situation. There's always going to be pros and cons to everything. And for me, like
Absolutely.
sometimes a lot of things can be overlooked. And then when you finally look at, again, the details, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, I probably should have been paying attention to that, because there's some things that can start off as a small problem or something you don't really care about. And then the next thing you know, it turns into a massive problem. You're like, oh, wow, yeah, I probably should have handled that better, or should have handled that when it was a smaller issue.
Are you spiritual in any way? Do you have any belief?
Like, so for me, I have friends all over the world, right? I don't believe in like a certain religion. I believe in a higher power. And spiritual, yeah, to a degree. I believe in like the energy that we all give off.
So do you think it's better to be a good person or a religious person? And what is the difference?
I don't think in a situation that a good person is necessarily a productive, right? Spiritual, I would say yes, right? To a degree, you should understand that there's different energies in the world, right? But you can't be a good person, because a good person will always get taken advantage of.
So are bad people just hurt people? Or are there actually bad people? Are people
there's
born
bad
good?
people.
Are people born good and bad? Or are we all the same and we get to decide?
I think we get to decide, but there's also there's so many factors, right? Your upbringing, your environment that you are brought up in can affect many things. Like somebody that has been through hard times as a child and a broken family, it's going to be hard for them to form meaningful relationships. It just depends on your upbringing and how you personally handle it, because we're all different people and we're all going to handle certain situations differently.
What is heaven?
Heaven, I don't want to say I don't believe in heaven, but for me, heaven is just like something that for me is just kind of like for the mortal world, right? Heaven is like if I'm on a cruise ship and I got like room service and good food and stuff. To me, I'm in heaven.
Great time, yeah.
That's the only, to me, as of right now. I mean, who knows? When we're all dead and gone, we'll find out if heaven actually exists. But I look at it from the perspective of reality.
Yeah.
My heaven moment is that temporary moment that we get to just kind of relax
What
a
is
little
hell?
bit. Hell is, I mean, hell is when you've either made a mistake or something really, really bad happens in your life that causes trauma that you can't shake off. Then you're in a moment of hell, right? You can get out of it, but it depends how you handle it and how you decide to deal with your emotions in that moment.
What makes someone a villain versus a hero?
You always say there's a fine line between the two. There always is a fine line. And it comes down, honestly, in my opinion, most things, it comes down to perspective, right? You look at any movie, right? There's some times where we can relate
This is
to
one of
like,
my favorite questions.
we can relate to the villain, right? Like you get to a point where you're like, you know what? This guy's making a little bit of sense.
Think about it. Like, think about Beauty and the Beast. When we, or think about, you can think about Sleeping Beauty and Maleficent. Like, like they did her wrong. Like we were on her side for a while there. So it's like, what's the difference?
Well, you start to understand. If you look at, I don't know if you watch like the MC, like Marvel or Avengers, right? You look at Thanos, right?
Right.
It's like,
I was hoping you're gonna bring him
he
up.
snaps his finger and he wants to eliminate half the population so that the rest can survive. It's like,
so who's the
that's
villain?
evil, yeah, but I kind of get it. He's kind of not wrong.
So what makes something evil or good?
Exactly. It comes down to perspective.
Right?
It comes down to your personal perspective. In most cases, there are people that are genuinely evil. Like there's murderers and all this. Those people are genuinely evil.
How did they get like that?
Upbringing, right?
So you don't think they were born like that?
No, I don't. No, I don't think most people aren't. Actually, I would say probably all. There's nobody that's born inherently evil. There's some people, there's circumstances, right? And how they handle adversity and the hard times in their life. And some people don't get the help that they need, or there are just, unfortunately, some people that they are thrown into horrible situations. Like, I'm not saying I feel bad for people that do, let's say, commit these heinous crimes and stuff, right? But it is understanding from a psychological perspective how they got to that point.
So I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you to kind of explain it in a way that makes sense to you. So there is a drunk father, and there are two sons.
Okay.
And he beats them. He does all the stuff that drunk parents do, makes them feel like crap, yells at them for all this stuff. One of them grows up and becomes a doctor. He saves people. He makes a big difference, and he's very kind, and he never beats his kids. Okay. And the other one grows up, and he becomes a serial killer. And he's killing people and stuff like that. He beats his kids and stuff like that. What happens?
Perspective and how they handled the situation, right? Like, again, we're all individuals, right? So somebody could go through the same circumstance and handle it completely differently, right? It's like if a kid grows up and let's say we have two in this scenario, right? Something a little bit more lighter, but it is the same effect.
Right.
Their parents get divorced at 11 years old. This kid is detached from relationships, can't form any meaningful relationships. Meanwhile, the other sibling grows up and has a loving, happy family because he told himself, I will never, ever, ever allow that to happen. I'm going to be the best loving father and husband that I could be.
So it's basically our choices, how we're going to look at things, glass half full or glass half empty?
Half full.
Yeah.
Half full. But again, it comes down to perspective, right? And again, like trauma and let's say crazy moments like that, unfortunate moments affect everybody differently.
So why do bad things happen to good people?
It has to. It has to. You can't go through life, right? I always believe that, like, everybody has their different levels, right? Everybody has to go through something because that's how you end up inevitably becoming who you're going to be. Yeah. Right? And it's just the process of life. Imagine if everything that you've ever wanted in life went your way 100% of the time.
I'm bored.
You'd be bored. And even if you weren't self-aware to be bored, right? You'd know that something is missing. You'd probably find something else, right? Whether it be alcohol or partying or something crazy to offset that fact that everything is 100% good all the time, because it can't be. We're not designed that way for everything to go perfect. We are designed to face adversity. We're designed to have bad times. It comes with the territory. And if we don't, as I say, you will create that problem, whether it's unintentional or not.
Name 3 things that are the most important to you in your life based on the conversations that we've been talking about.
Travel, of course, relationships, and setting an example.
Why?
Well, travel, I mean, I think, like I said, travel's the greatest teacher. I think it's better than any traditional education you're ever going to get. Relationships, as I get older, I realize that there's just some relationships that you can't replace. Yeah. And we're humans, right? We need people around us. Yeah, it's fun being able to travel all these places, but I do a lot of it by myself, and it's cool, right? But then you get lonely. Yeah. And then you realize, like, this would be so much more fun if I experience this with somebody else. That's the hard part about what I do. It is, and as sad as it is, that's the truth, right? And then, I mean, just being able to have, like, something to keep you going, I think is also just very, very important.
It's like a goal.
Yeah, it's like somebody working like a 9 to 5, right? There are people that are fulfilled in that, right? Or they want promotions or whatever, but there are some people that they're not in the field that they ever dreamed of. And they don't have that ambition and that drive to push, and they're just in a state of stagnation where they know they want more, but that's how those same people end up getting sad, depressed,
Right.
and they don't even know it. They're just stuck in a routine, and before they know it, life has passed them by. And it's honestly, in a lot of ways, depending on what they want to do, it's too late. You know, I won't say it's never too late, but for certain things, yeah, it's true.
So what would your message be to the people before we sign off? Was there anything else that you want to say to in regards to anything we just talked about, motivating? What is anything left for you to say?
I would say, obviously, like my favorite statement I always say, just keep moving forward. You have to. Travel, again, it's the greatest teacher. If you haven't, go get your passport. I think it's important when you go see how other people around the world live, it gives you genuine perspective. And especially as an American, everybody here is this capitalistic society. Everybody wants to get rich. Everybody wants to make money. But then you realize you go someplace like Europe, and most parts of Europe, people don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
So to me, I mean, if I had to say anything, yeah, go travel, always learn, value the relationships that you have because they won't be around forever, most of them.
Absolutely. So where can we follow you so we can see more of what you do?
So my main channel on YouTube is the Shiplife. I have another YouTube channel called J the Nomad. I don't upload there too often, but if I do like a new cruise ship or something like that, I'll put vlogs on there.
That's his Instagram handle as well.
Yes, that is the Instagram. I also have an Instagram for the Shiplife as well. So you can type in the Shiplife, you can type in J the Nomad, and then all those same things over on Facebook, TikTok, J the Nomad, but I'm still growing. I'm almost at like 10,000 followers.
Not since last month.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. This is Nakedly Under Construction. Next time, it'll be you.
All right, take care, guys. Thank you for having me.